Hello. So this is a very spur of the moment thing, but I am here to answer a few questions that came up after the last live stream that I did. And I thought that I would just jump on here to do that real quick. So hello and welcome. And I just want to say thank you to those of you who are new subscribers and to those of you who might be finding this video from other channels or recommendations. I think it's really cool that I've had as many new people as I have, and certainly those of you who have been with me for a while, I'm very grateful for you too. So I just want to say thank you to you guys for being here, for listening along during or after the fact, or however you come to this channel, however you find it. I sincerely appreciate your support, your encouragement, your taking the time to comment and give feedback and everything that you guys are doing to participate in this. I really, truly appreciate it. So I wanted to say thank you. So I actually got a few questions in follow-up to the video that I did a few days ago, last week sometime. So let me see. During the video, I've got my phone just because I'm going through my notifications, and I don't actually have my Bible with me. And as I was preparing to go live, I thought, oh, that's really stupid for me to not have my Bible. So I'm going to have to pull everything up on my phone here. Just want to make sure that I get my windows straightened out in case anybody does come in and have questions, although I probably won't be able to answer them because I don't have my Bible, but I can always just pull it up online. So, okay. First question. In the video, Bondservant had asked a question about Gog and Magog as it pertains to the one in Revelation 20, which comes after the 1,000 years are expired, when Satan is loosed for a little season to go deceive those who are in the four quarters of the earth, to gather them to the battle of Gog and Magog. And this is after the 1,000 years, after the millennial reign. This is the very last thing. Fire comes down from heaven to destroy them, and then heaven and earth flee away from whose face sits on the great white throne. The books are opened. The dead are judged out of the books according to the works that they did. And then death and hell are cast into the lake of fire. And then in Revelation 21, we see New Jerusalem coming down. Heaven and earth are recreated into eternity. You see New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven as a bride adorned for her husband. All of that stuff. So we're talking about Revelation 20, not the Ezekiel 38 and 39 Gog and Magog. That is different. Absolutely different. So actually, let me pull the scripture up. I'll just go to my online Bible. And we'll read these verses just so you know, if you didn't know, so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm actually going to start in Revelation 20, verse 1, because Revelation 19 ends with the beast and the false prophet being thrown into the lake of fire 1,000 years before everyone else. So in Revelation 20, verse 1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. He laid hold on that dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. Okay, so that actually goes into the reasoning for this last incursion of Gog and Magog, because we have to keep in mind the 70 weeks of Daniel. The 6 purposes that accomplishes are to 70 weeks. I can't go through them without repeating the whole thing, so sorry. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness. That is the kingdom age. There will be no deception on this earth at all during the 1,000 years. Now, this is a really big point, because Jesus is going to defeat everyone who stands against him. The only people going into the millennial kingdom will be entirely righteous, which means washed in the blood of the Lamb. There will be no evil on earth at all during this 1,000 years. When we say to bring in an age of righteousness, it means to completely abolish everything evil and everything sinful. The curse of sin on the earth will be lifted and will be remade. We went over this in one of the most recent videos. Isaiah 65 and 66 talks about a new heaven and new earth to go into the millennial kingdom. So the curse of sin on the earth, and Romans 8:19 through 21 talks about the earnest expectation of the creation is the manifestation of the sons of God, is when we appear with Christ at the second coming. That will be when all of creation is lifted. The curse of sin is lifted over the creation, and it will be heaven and earth will be remade, and Jesus will rule and reign from Jerusalem in an age of righteousness. Now, the key points here are that not only will everyone that stood against Jesus be tossed into Sheol, Hades, to await their resurrection, the second death, everyone on earth at that point will be righteous to go into the millennial kingdom to partake of the marriage supper of the Lamb. Key understanding here. So where the second incursion of Gog and Magog comes in is that there will be procreation. The people who go into the millennial kingdom in their natural bodies will bear children, who will grow up to bear children. And from that point forward, everyone will have to make a decision for Christ. Now, the establishment of the kingdom in righteousness necessitates that every single person that goes into the kingdom is righteous. The kingdom parables, Matthew 25, specifically to talk about all of that, how there will be two people groups left to go into the millennial kingdom. Two people groups at the second coming. Those who are saved believe in Jesus, and those who are not saved don't believe in Jesus. The ones who are saved believe in Jesus get to go into the millennial kingdom. Those who are going to be resurrected are the righteous people to go into the millennial kingdom, and the trib saints to go into the millennial kingdom. And of course, those of us who were resurrected and or changed in this rapture event, we will go into the millennial kingdom also. So it is an age of righteousness established with every single person going in as a believer in Jesus. And when you look at the events of the millennial kingdom, those who are going to procreate and populate it, those people aren't, by virtue of the fact they were born in a righteous kingdom, saved. They're still going to have to choose for Jesus. And Gog and Magog is proof, in Revelation 20, is proof that not everyone's going to. So in this age of righteousness, Jesus dealt with all of the people that stood against him. That's what Armageddon is all about, is Jesus dealing with those who stand against him so that they're not going into the kingdom. Revelation 20 provides us with a specific detail that shows us that before the resurrections that will occur to go into the kingdom, the trib saints, and probably Daniel 12, Isaiah 26, the resurrection of the Old Testament saints, we see Satan bound, because it's an age of righteousness and there's no deception. That is the one of the saddest things, is that this is going to be an age of righteousness with Jesus physically ruling and reigning from Jerusalem for 1,000 years, free from the curse of sin, free from any deception, free from anything like that. It'll be a world entirely different than the one that we live in now. And these people are still not going to choose for Jesus. So what we see here is that there will be this age of righteousness where people still have to choose for Jesus even while he's living there. So there's literally no excuse. But Satan is bound. So his deception and all of the little minions that, help deceive right now, they're going to be shut up, bound. There's going to be none of that during the millennial kingdom. So that's why I'm starting in the beginning of Revelation 20 to help us understand what is the purpose for this last incursion of Gog and Magog right before the great white throne. Well, it does have a reason. So he says, and talking about Satan being cast into the bottomless pit, shut up and set a seal on him that he should deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Well, because there's a final event where people must choose for or against Jesus. And that's what the second Gog and Magog is you have these people who were born into the millennial kingdom that must choose for Jesus or against Jesus. And that is the defining event by which they must have chosen, because if they've chosen for Jesus, they will not be able to be deceived into standing against him in this Revelation 20 Gog and Magog. But if they haven't chosen for him, they will be susceptible to the deception, and they will be destroyed and thrown into the lake of fire in the great white throne that comes after that. So that is the reason for Revelation 20's Gog and Magog. The question is, Heather, my question regarding Revelation 23 is not about when, but more about why. Why this other Gog and Magog? Is there scripture to answer what God's purpose for this might be? Any speculation? Thanks. Well, yes, there is an age of righteousness that is entirely free from deception. And during this time period, there are going to be people who do not choose for Jesus Christ. And this is a final separation of for or against. That is exactly what the purpose of this is a final separation of for Jesus or against Jesus to go into eternity. If people haven't made a choice, by this point, they will be required to make a choice. And no choice is a choice. So in verse 4, it says, And I saw thrones, and they that sat on them, and judgment was given unto them. I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus. These are the trib saints, the resurrection of the trib saints at the end of the 70th week to go into the millennial kingdom. For the word of God, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their forehead or in his hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So Satan is bound in the bottomless pit directly after the beast and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire. After Satan is bound and is unable to deceive the nations, there's a resurrection of the trib saints to go into the kingdom to rule and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. It says the rest of the dead lived not until 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. First resurrection because there's a second one in the chapter. The second resurrection being the great white throne, those who stand before the great white throne to be judged out of the books and then tossed into the lake of fire forever. So it's not the first resurrection ever. It's just the first in this chapter because there are two. The second being the second death. It says in verse 6, it says, Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. Again, first resurrection because there's a second listed. And those who are part of the first resurrection are not going to be participants of the great white throne. Just like those of us who participate in the resurrection/rapture of the church will not participate in the great white throne either. That exemption is specifically specified in the letter to the church of Smyrna. Blessed is he who overcometh, and of such the second death has no power. Because we will not participate in the second death or the great white throne. That is not our resurrection. The judgment seat of Christ is our resurrection. The bema, the rapture, where the crowns are rewarded. On such the second death has no power, talking about the first resurrection, but they shall be priests of God and of Christ and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Okay. So then after the age of righteousness, the resurrections, the ruling and reigning with Christ 1,000 years, the millennial kingdom, all of that, then Satan is loosed. And the purpose is, again, it's kind of like the separation of the wheat and the tares to go into the millennial kingdom. When Jesus comes back, there's two groups of people, for Jesus or against Jesus. Those who are against Jesus get tossed into Hades to await the second death, to await the resurrection to go into the lake of fire. Those who are standing with Jesus get to go into the kingdom. So during this kingdom age, there's going to be people who, again, the separation of the wheat and tares is essentially is at the end of this period, just like the second coming is the end of a period. And there's two groups of people, into the kingdom, out of the kingdom. Just like at the end of the 1,000 years, there's going to be a separation, two groups of people, with Jesus, against Jesus. Those who are with Jesus get to go into eternity and with him, and those who are against him, lake of fire. That's exactly what this is. This is kind of like a separation of the wheat and tares. It's just 1,000 years later than the other one, which happens at the second coming. So that is the purpose of this incursion, the second incursion of Gog and Magog after the 1,000 years. So it says, when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. So now we were told he was not able to deceive the nations during that 1,000 years, but now he's loosed out of his prison and he will be able to deceive the nations, which is exactly what he will directly go and do. He shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. And that's where the sad part of this comes in, is that there will be that many people who are living on an earth that Jesus is ruling from. And they will have not chosen for him. I can't even imagine that. I guess it happened at his first coming, right? But Satan will be able to deceive that many people because that many people will not have made their choice for Jesus by that point. They went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. The devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. I saw the great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. The sea gave up the dead which were in it. Death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. Death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So the question was not, when will that occur? Because we know it's very clear after the 1,000 years. It's, why will it occur? Because it's a separation of those who are for Christ or against Christ. And it is the final event which will determine, that will seal fates prior to eternity. And those, obviously, who are killed to be resurrected in the second death, because fire comes out of heaven and devours them, so they die. And then they're going to be immediately resurrected to stand before the great white throne and be sent to the lake of fire forever. So essentially, that is a separation event. Is exactly what that is. The second Gog and Magog is a separation event to decide where people go in eternity. And if Satan's able to deceive them so that they want to kill, destroy Jesus and the saints and all of that stuff, then they're not choosing for that, and their eternities will be sealed accordingly. So I hope they answer the question. Peter, you had a question about the Revelation 11 two witnesses, and you said where the two witnesses will be and who they might be. I don't know who they're going to be, but Revelation 11 tells us that ties them to the temple, and we're told that their bodies will lay in Jerusalem for the 3.5 days. So they are going to be at the temple specifically, and in Jerusalem specifically for the duration of their ministry. I don't know who they're going to be. We're not given that information, but that is where they will have their ministry, specifically in Jerusalem, and they, again, specifically are tied to the temple. Look up. You said the question was, does the rapture occur in Revelation 4 when its elders are noted in Revelation 4:4? And I did go through that one, but then you clarified and said, yep, but it occurs between chapters 1 through 4, right? Disclaimer, I was stating you answered the question that the rapture doesn't occur in chapter 1, but that the elders in 4 means it occurred at that point. Okay, so what I said, the question that came up in the video was, does the rapture occur in Revelation 4:1? And I said, not to split hairs, but no, and here's why. In Revelation 1:19, we're told that the book of Revelation is divided into 3 parts. The things John was told to write, the things which he had seen, so that's past, the things which are, which is present, and the things which must be hereafter, so that's future, prophetic. We see the movement from the things which are the present age dispensation of grace of God, which is written about in chapters 2 and 3. We see the move from the present to the prophetic in Revelation 4:1, where he heard a voice, as it were, a trumpet talking with him, and said, come up hither, and I will show thee the things which must be hereafter. So we see the transition from present to prophetic, from present to future in Revelation 4:1. Now, the reason I said that it's not technically the rapture is because John is caught up in the spirit. We are going to be caught up in glory. So he's not seeing the rapture because he's caught up in the spirit. He's not caught up in glory. So he's not witnessing the rapture, and he's not witnessing the bema, which coincides with the rapture of the church. What he sees is proof that has already happened by the point that he's caught up in the spirit, because the first thing he sees is the throne in heaven, and the one who sat on the throne was in sight like unto a jasper and a sardine stone. He sees a rainbow round about the throne in sight like unto an emerald. And then he sees the elders. The elders representing that the rapture has occurred. White raiment is present, and we know from the letter to the church of Sardis that is what overcomers will get. Overcomers by the blood of the Lamb, that will be handed out at probably part of the change, but it's indicative of the rapture having happened. And the crowns, the bema, these are the things that stood through the fire to be for reward, the rest having been burned up. 1 Corinthians 3 talks about that. So we don't specifically see the judgment seat of Christ, nor do we don't specifically see the rapture of the church, because again, he's not caught up in glory. He's not changed from glory to glory. He's not participating in the rapture or in the bema. He's caught up in the spirit to see things which include the rapture already having happened, indicated by the presence of the elders with their raiment and their crowns in heaven. It's the move to from the present to the prophetic, indicating the realization of the promise that we were given, extended in Ephesians 2:6, which talks about us being seated in the heavenly places with Christ. So now he's actually physically seeing us being seated in heavenly places with Christ. The elders being a representative portion of the church, priests. That's what we were told in 1 Peter 2. Royal priesthood. And that's more than likely, somebody brought that up and said, do you think that that's got anything to do with the priesthood established by David, 24? We are the priests. We were told that we would be king and priests, and we would reign on earth. Well, that comes during the 1,000 years. But the priests, we're seeing doing priestly duties in Revelation 7, serving God before the throne day and night. That's a priestly duty. And more than likely, yes, that has something to do with the 24 seats in heaven, something to do with the priesthood of the current dispensation having ended in a special dispensation. I like to say as the special dispensation that was a mystery revealed in Ephesians 2 and 3, which is the dispensation of the grace of God, which ends in a special dispensation, which is the not everybody's going to fall asleep, but you're all going to be changed, which is the resurrection of those who have fallen asleep in Christ and the rapture of those who are currently alive at the time that he comes back. So it's a special dispensation that ends in a special dispensation. And then you see the proof of that in Revelation 4 with the seated in heavenly places elders, which, yes, probably do signify the royal priesthood that we are. Again, 1 Peter 2 talks about that, offering spiritual sacrifices unto God. And that's kind of indicated in Revelation 5 and 8 talk about that. So there's kind of some stuff around there. But the question was, does the rapture, the question that I answered was, do we see the rapture of the church in Revelation 4:1? Is that what that is? No, not technically. What we see is a move, the language, the word hereafter, is signifying the shift from present, right? The things which thou hast seen, the things which are, so the present, and the things which must be hereafter. You're seeing a shift from the present to the prophetic. The first of which indicates the rapture has happened, and you see that based on who he's seeing in the throne room. This is why you don't specifically see the rapture of the church in Revelation, and specifically why you don't see the judgment seat of Christ in Revelation. You only see that it has happened, and this is by virtue of the fact that we are going to be caught up in glory and changed, and the bema, the judgment seat of Christ, is something that coincides with this change to glory. And John is not caught up in glory. So he doesn't see it. He doesn't participate in it. He only sees that it happened when he's caught up in the spirit to witness the things which are moving from present to prophetic, being beginning with the rapture of the church having happened, because that necessitates, that must occur before judgment. And we see judgment being ready to start in Revelation 5 and then starting in Revelation 6. So, not to split hairs, it's not technically the rapture. It's showing us that the rapture will have happened by that point, because it's the beginning event that kicks off prophecy. Removal of the righteous, transfer of possession of the scroll from father to son, because all judgment is committed to the son. And then he judges. And then he comes back. And we come back with him. So hopefully that makes sense. But I just wanted to clarify that. And yes, I am a pre-tribber. Somebody asked me that during the last video. Just because I'm making a distinction doesn't mean I'm not pre-trib. Okay, so Peter, hi. Brian, hi. Bema, it goes back to, it's a Greek word. It has to do with the Olympics, actually, and the way that victors and awards were given. It's a raised platform. The Bema is just a raised platform where judges sat to not judge like the places, but judge who finished races. So it's got to do with, you have to remember that the New Testament was written in Greek and as a universal language at that time. So Bema is a Greek word to discuss the awards that are given upon the finishing of a race. John only caught a glimpse because he was still in flesh. Yeah, he didn't catch a glimpse. He just saw that it had happened. That's the difference, is he didn't see the rapture. He didn't see the judgment seat of Christ. He only saw, when he was caught up in the spirit, he saw that those things had happened. He saw proof that they had happened based on what he was seeing in the throne room. Am I answering off-topic questions? Yes, I am. I'm answering questions that came out of the last video I did, yes. You mentioned in a previous video that you used to believe in a 2033 endpoint. No, I never said that, and I never believed in a 2033 endpoint. Never. I'm sorry if I don't think I ever said anything close to that. Other people have mentioned that because they believe in 50 years and they believe that Jesus died in 33 AD. So they believe when you count 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50. So that's how they get to the 2033. I have never once said that. I've never believed that. The only time I ever mentioned that was when I was talking about when I first started out looking for, this was like back in 2012 when I very, very first started out researching this. The very first thing I came across when I was searching for rapture timing or even just any kind of like information out there, I came across something about 2033, and I said, no, that's too far away. I don't like the answer. So I kept looking, but that's the only thing I've ever said about that. I don't agree with that. No, that's fine. I don't know. I didn't like the answer, so I kept looking. But no, I am not a 2033 person. That's the wrong way to count. And at every opportunity, that is what I tell people. It's the wrong way to count that. That leads people to that conclusion. But so those are the answers that I wanted to give. And I don't think there was anything else. Daniel Green said, hi, Heather, how much time or years do you believe will pass between post-millennial reign to the final Gog-Magog event? It's immediate. I would assume that Satan being loosed out of his prison to go in to see the nations, Gog and Magog, that means that there will be other people doing his bidding also. So that's going to be very, very fast. He's loosed immediately after the 1,000 years and loosed for a little season. I don't know specifically what little season means, but it's all going to be very quick. God does not draw things out. That is for sure. So I think that is it. Okay. So I am going to go. I just wanted to jump on here real quick and answer those questions. Hopefully I answered them satisfactorily and there are no other questions about that. If there are, let me know and I will either answer them if they're short to answer in comments, or I will jump on here to do a new video, or I will address them next time. So have a good rest of your weekend, guys, and take care. See you later.